After I put Marie to bed, I looked at the clock. 12:03. Damn, it was already a new day in a new damn year. I needed to sleep, but my eyes kept opening. Finally, I went downstairs. I looked under the bar to see if I had some Celtic Heartland's Macallan whiskey left. Yes, at least the new year started off right, even if the old one ended kind of bad. It was a 34-year-old Scotch whiskey that my father gave me for our 10th wedding anniversary. Now it seemed that whiskey loved me more than Marie. I opened it just to try it and saved it for a special occasion. Now is definitely a good time to drink it, although in this case there was nothing special. The smell was like oil with mint and tropical fruits. The taste is multi-layered, clean malt with great depth. Great drinks for such a disgusting night. I turned off all the lights and turned on the gas fireplace. Looking into the flickering flames, I almost fell into hypnosis. I felt like I was in one of Clint Eastwood's early films. The whiskey was unfortunately good, Marie was bad, and my memories of the night before were disgusting. The images of David having sex with Marie nearly made me sick. I knew it was partly my fault. I could have stopped this several times. But it was David who took her to the bedroom. It was Marie who got so angry and told me to go home that she would stay with David. If I hadn't knocked down the door, our marriage would have been over. I drank about a third of the bottle of whiskey and fell asleep on the sofa. Marie came down a little after noon. I walked up and said, "Good morning," but she walked past without looking at me, went to the kitchen and made coffee. I went into the office, thought for a while, and then returned to the kitchen and poured myself some coffee. I sat down opposite her and quietly said, "Marie, we need to talk." She sat staring at her coffee. "Marie, please look at me." I looked at her for a minute. I was starting to get really angry. "Marie, damn it, look at me," I said as I threw my coffee cup at the wall, breaking it into pieces. She finally looked up at me with a blank face and went upstairs with a cup of coffee. I sat looking at the coffee stains on the wall, patterns, like road junctions in life. I shook my head and stood up. I went down to the basement and half-heartedly tried to work on a few projects that were lying around there. Finally, I gave up and went into the office to watch football matches and finish my whiskey. I didn't see Maria again that day. She probably came down to get something to eat while I was in the basement. Thank God my mother had children. I slept on the couch again that night, this time on purpose. My emotions were exposed. I didn't want Marie to leave. I couldn't believe she reacted so strongly. I couldn't sleep for several hours, going through everything, trying to understand what was happening. Finally, around 3, I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up and looked at the clock. Crap, it was already past 8. I sat for a while, trying to collect my thoughts, and then I realized that David would not come again. I realized that I was holding my breath. I exhaled and smiled for the first time since Friday. I made some coffee and headed upstairs, hoping that now we could put this behind us. As I approached the landing, the bedroom door opened and I stopped. Marie came out with a suitcase in her hand. Fascinated, I watched her walk down the stairs towards me. I spread my arms a little to the sides to hug her and fix everything, but she walked past me straight into the garage. I stood there in a daze and then ran into the garage. She drove away and the garage door slowly lowered with a terrible creak. Crap, she was going to my brother. She made her decision. I sat in my office, alone with my thoughts. The good is gone. I finished my whiskey last night. Bad just abandoned me, leaving me, I don't know why, with my brother David. All I had left was ugly, and I had a hell of a lot of that. There was also a bottle of Maker's Mark that I found. I remembered New Year's Eve I threw up on the carpet, the couch and myself. I cried. I showered, changed, and opened a bottle of cheap gin. Marie left, the good whiskey ran out. Damn, even the Maker's Mark has run out. I was drinking cheap gin and realizing that it might become a metaphor for the rest of my life. Marie is gone. Damn my brother. Damn me. Was I jealous of my brother? Images from the video flashed in my memory. No, I don't have a brother. Marie? Damn it. More cheap gin. I thought about it for a long time and decided that I would not become a victim. First, I called the storage unit I used when we bought the house. Then I called my local U-Haul and reserved a truck. I went and picked up the truck and a bunch of boxes. Damn it, the boxes cost more than the booze. I returned home and packed everything I wanted to keep. It wasn't much. I went to the warehouse and unloaded my things. After I returned the truck, I went to the bank. I opened new, separate accounts, splitting everything in half, 50-50. I told the vice president who was handling my case to call Marie on her cell phone so that she could sign new cards for the checking and savings accounts. I figured I made about 60% of the money, but I just wanted to get away from her quickly. I left about 20,000 in traveler's checks. You can't even imagine how many times I had to sign for so many traveler's checks. Damn it. Then I went to my lawyer and signed a power of attorney to sell the house or whatever other crap Marie wanted, including divorce. I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I told him my basic plans and how to contact me in case of emergency, but asked him to tell Marie that I would talk to her in a few months to work things out. Donald, could you watch the kids? I know it's a big ask, but could you do this for me as a friend? The twins, Paul and Andy, and my little girl Cassie are now with my mother. I'm sure Marie will pick them up soon, but if there are any problems, please contact me using the emergency numbers I'll send you occasionally. Then I went into the office and talked to my boss. We had a pretty good relationship. I worked for him for many years. He was the VP of marketing, and I was the product manager. I told him some of what happened and asked for unpaid leave. He didn't mind. We had recently completed several new product launches, and there was a bit of a downturn. I had a few early-stage projects that the new girl I've been training for the last couple of months could keep an eye on. Bob asked me to call if there was anything I could do to help him. I went to a travel site I've been using for years and booked a 30-day Mediterranean cruise. It wasn't easy because of the holiday season. I had to take a suit. Well, to hell with him. A couple of hours later, I was already at the airport, from where I flew to Fort Lauderdale. When I boarded the cruise ship, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I arrived at the ship early and spent a couple of hours exploring it. I don't know why Marie and I had never done this before. I made it my business to sanctify every bar I found. Crap, there were 7 of them. Being the perfectionist I am, I did it again. Later, I remembered that I needed to go to the right restaurant for dinner. Crap, and you probably thought that I would forget to eat. I found myself at a table for 8 people, a couple of stockbrokers, a banking couple, well, perhaps already retired God. I was hoping a chief steward, a retired teacher, and that redhead. I didn't mean to sound demeaning that I only saw her as a redhead, but damn, that was her main defining feature. Have you ever seen Maureen O'Hara in The Angry Man? So, it was Mureen. I learned later that Mureen means girl with long hair. It was her. Red hair. You needed to see this. Long, to the waist, thick, rich red. Freckles, as if there were too many of them. Were there more? And where? My curious mind wanted to know. She sat down next to me. I got nervous. Under the table, I took off the ring. Why didn't I do this earlier? Hi, I'm Mureen, she said, holding out her hand. She said her name. I couldn't pronounce it. Looking at her, I finally squeezed out, I am Chance. Dinner was amazing. I ate filet mignon in béarnaise sauce and drank some really great burgundy wine. It was so nice to just sign, and they immediately brought you something wonderful. The dessert was just. Well, as it melted in my mouth, I kept looking at Mureen, thinking about incredibly sweet things. Later, I met Mureen at the casino. She turned out to be my good luck charm. At first, I was just playing with slot machines, having nothing better to do. $3,000, $3,000, $3,000. I love these machines. Mureen wanted to try roulette. I gave her a couple of black chips, 200. She bet them on red and won. And again, she was delighted, laughing at herself and at me. We went to try the bones. 7,000. Big bets. Texas Hold'em 22,000. By the end of the trip, I was up $100,000. But the trip is not over yet. Mureen and I went dancing later. She made me become a much better dancer than I was. I had a great time, and we ended up at the stern of the ship, smoking I haven't smoked in over 10 years. She told me her story. I'm from County Meath, near Dublin. I am the middle of 5 sisters. Growing up was hard, no money, nothing. I was smart and got a scholarship to Farnborough College of Technology in Aldershot. It's south of Farnborough in Hampshire. There I met a sergeant from the Coldstream Guard and fell head over heels in love. I think I was attracted to the shape and maybe his confidence. God, how arrogant he was. He earned good money, about £20,000 a year, so I was able to continue my studies. 2 years later, he was transferred to the King's Guard Cavalry Regiment in Bosnia. It was supposed to be for 6 months. 3 weeks later, just 3 damn weeks, he died in a car accident. I knew I couldn't return home after marrying a British man, so after graduating from college, I took a job at Chase Manhattan in New York. Everything was fine, but after Ashley, I no longer had a passion for life. My heart had no place for other men. That was 5 years ago. Mureen, I began, but she laughed at my incorrect pronunciation. Well, then Red, she smiled. Was there anyone else? No, I just lost interest. I think you should have known Ashley. He completely captured me. No one else can do it again, and I don't even want to try. But you can't just close yourself off from the whole world. I know, damn it, I know. I'm here because I need this. Well, damn, I just need, I need sex, she said, blushing brightly. She paused for a moment and continued, Chance, I need you. Thinking about Marie, I replied, Yes, Red, I need you too. We went to her cabin holding hands. She disappeared into the small bathroom and emerged about 10 minutes later wearing a sheer pink nightie. It was so thin that you could see that the freckles continued on the chest. Chance, I don't want any commitment. I know I'm in trouble because of Ashley, but please stay with me before we get to Naples. Don't ask questions, don't make promises. Hold me, love me. I sat down next to her on the bed and just hugged her. She cried, shaking a little. I was patient. She buried her face in my neck. Later, she raised her head and kissed me tenderly, and then again. Her eyes, almost closed, seemed sleepy, looked at me with a smoky green gaze. Love me, Chance, love me. We made love. After that, we both fell asleep. At dawn, we made love again, but without tears. It was a great cruise. Mureen gradually relaxed, and we had fun. She never talked about love. If she had told me, maybe I would have confessed too. I certainly loved her in some ways, and even wondered if she would have liked my children. I was sure she would have fallen in love with Cassie. We made several stops on the islands of the Eastern Caribbean, small islands merged into one continuous spot without names. Eventually, we headed east, on a long journey across the desolate Atlantic. We finally arrived in Funchal, Madeira, and I think it was the best meal of the entire trip. We walked down to the waterfront to a restaurant where small boats sat on the water with wooden paths leading to them. We ate really ugly fish with sharp teeth and everything. It was called the swordfish, but the locals called it espada preta. Local fishermen caught it with long lines at depths ranging from half a mile to a mile. It was grilled with half a banana on top and served with chilled vinho verde, a green wine. The day was incredibly beautiful, and I felt myself increasingly drawn to Mureen. I don't know how much of this had to do with her and how much with my anger at Marie. We made a few more stops and finally arrived in Naples. We docked around 5 in the evening and disembarkation was scheduled for 8 in the morning. I had plans to spend a few weeks in Italy and then Spain, but there was no set itinerary. We had a good dinner on the ship on our last evening. The restaurant did a great job. Then we went to the lounge, where we mostly sat quietly, dancing from time to time. Around 10, Mureen took me by the hand and led me to her cabin. I fell asleep. Around 1 in the morning, Mureen shook my shoulder. Chance, it's time to leave. I still need to pack my things. I wanted to talk to her, tell her how I felt, but she put her hand on my face, on my lips. Chance, I love you, but I don't love you either. I know this won't help you, but Ashley will always be my love. Maybe this will seem strange to you, but for me it is not. I will always remember you for how you made me feel alive again, even if it was just for a few days. Please don't look for me in the morning. I want to keep you in my heart just the way you are. I hugged her and we both cried quietly. The next morning, I deliberately slept late until I couldn't take it anymore. I quickly got dressed and ran out to the balcony. I caught a glimpse of a red head moving through the crowd on the pier. "Red," I shouted. A pale face flashed by, a hand waved, froze, and she disappeared. With tears in my eyes, I returned to the cabin and began to get ready. The rest of the trip was strange. I never looked at any woman again. Of course, I thought about trying to find Mureen, but I knew she was gone. It's over, it will never happen again, will never happen. I couldn't stop thinking. Memories of Marie started to flood into my head. Her brown eyes began to haunt me. I remembered how sexy she was when she dressed up. How did I feel? Well, I was angry, furious, and yes, jealous. Isn't this funny? I was jealous of my brother, who was probably having sex with my wife while I sat and drank. Yes, I got drunk a few times. More than a few times. Jealousy. Damn it. I didn't really feel like sightseeing, so I walked a lot, but mostly enjoyed the restaurants. The one in Madrid, near the Plaza Mayor, was incredible. It was called Ristorante Botan and was even listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the oldest operating restaurant in the world, dating back to 1725. It was a whole network of interconnected caves underground and several buildings connected above the ground. It was very strange. The floors did not match between the buildings, small alcoves everywhere, but the food. I usually ordered a pitcher of sangria and either cochinillo asado roasted suckling pig or cordero asado roasted lamb. It was something completely different from what I ate in the States. I later found out that they have another location in Coral Gables. Is it worth moving there? But I felt alone. Visions of Marie and Mureen followed each other, images of one, then the other, and sometimes both. Some nights I thought I might have gone crazy. Other nights I had no doubts. I became a loner, drank a lot, and didn't talk to anyone. Finally, after 3 months, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing or why. I think I really was a little crazy. It's time to return home. I missed the children, especially my little Cassie. It just broke my heart to think about her. Damn it, I was angrier than ever with Marie. Finally, I arrived at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix on the 1st of April. Wasn't I the biggest fool in the world? I rented a car. When the bus dropped me off, I was drenched in sweat. The temperature must have been over 100 degrees at 11 o'clock at night. I drove home in the cool air-conditioned air of my rental car. The house was dark, with a sold sign on the lawn. Well, damn it, I thought. I still had a lot of money left over from the cruise, so I went to the Point West Hotel. The restaurant in the back was still open, so I hurried there after leaving my things in the room. The steak was incredible. The food in Europe was great, but I'm essentially a meat eater. I ate and sweated. I drank some wine, ate and sweated again. I finished the bottle and asked for another, which I eventually took with me to my room. Lying in bed, I began to think. I had no idea what I would see. Marie, hell, I don't know. I still had some feelings for her, at least physical ones. My brother, David, to hell with it. He was dead to me, but one feeling towards him still remained. Jealousy, that damn monster with green eyes. I fell asleep, falling into a deep sleep. The morning brought sunshine, breakfast, steak and eggs, and the realization that I had gained weight. A lot. I bought swimming trunks from a souvenir shop and swam for about half an hour. I was proud of myself. I'm great. And then he swam to the bar and started drinking margaritas. Okay, maybe tomorrow I'll restrain myself. So the week passed. Steak for dinner, swimming in the afternoon, and gradually less and less drinking and more swimming. I felt lost. I felt alone. I felt jealous of my brother, and I hated and loved Marie at the same time. Finally, after a week, I called my lawyer and made an appointment. I arrived early, but I didn't have to wait long. "Chance, how the hell are you?" I thought you would never come back. Well, Donald, there were days when I seriously thought about it. I drove home and saw the sold sign. What's going on there? Well, you left and told me to do whatever I needed to do, so I did. It took me a while to find Marie. Crap. I called your parents. They gave me her parents' number. I called her, but they didn't tell me where she was. They seemed to be mad at you. They said that the children were fine and that Marie visited them regularly. Did you know she lives in Sedona now? Dawn, I haven't talked to anyone in 3 months. Anyway, when I finally talked to her, she seemed a little upset. I asked what happened, but she didn't answer. I told her about the bank changes, but the bank had already talked to her about it. I asked what she wanted to do with the house. She asked me, when is Chance coming back? I told her what you said in a few months. She said, well, I don't think any of us want to live there, so sell the damn house. Well, I sold it. Damn, it was a hot commodity. Closing tomorrow, and you'll get about $300,000 after all expenses. Half will be transferred to your account. This is fine. Thinking about Sedona, I muttered, yeah, that's normal. We talked for a few more minutes, and I finally asked if he had Marie's number. No, but she will be at the closing tomorrow. You don't have to come, but you can if you want. No, just tell me where it is, and I might show up. I'll definitely call you when I find an apartment. Since money was no problem, I rented a really nice house in Carefree that same day. It was a whole house, but its owner went to Europe for a year. I thought that during this time I would decide what I wanted. Early morning of the new year. Crap, thought David. Damn, Chance ruined everything. His thoughts raced. I have wanted Marie since I first saw her, but I never thought it would happen. Then last night everything came together and she really wanted sex. And then Chance ruined everything. As he thought about it again, he remembered how strong his brother was. Crap, no woman is worth this. Waking Anne, who had dozed off on the couch, he said, if Marie or Chance call, tell them I'm not home. If any of them, especially that damn prostitute Marie, comes to the door, don't open it. He dragged her upstairs, and they fell asleep like the dead. When Marie woke up on New Year's Day, she remembered everything that happened the previous evening. Looking at the bathroom mirror, she suddenly flushed with shame. Covering her face with her hands, she began to cry. She was disgusted. She betrayed Chance, God. Standing in the shower, she replayed everything that happened in her head. I really ruined everything. I have no idea what came over me. The whole evening was strange. I behaved like a woman of easy virtue, and this is not at all about me. I really ruined everything with Chance, and I will never be able to look Anne and David in the eyes again. I'm just glad Chance stopped it before it went too far. After finishing the shower, she looked at herself in the mirror again, drying herself. This body belongs to Chance, she thought. I don't know what I did with David. I don't think I drank that much. I know I had a strong desire, but damn, I just don't remember how it happened. After getting dressed, she went downstairs for breakfast. Chance stood there, looking at her. I can't meet him. I don't know what to say. These and other thoughts flashed through her head. When she saw him on the stairs, she couldn't even look at him. After making herself some coffee, she sat down at the kitchen table, looking at the mug and watching the coffee swirl in it, as if it could provide answers to her questions. And she definitely didn't have any. As she sat there, she heard Chance say something. She looked at him, her mind going blank. I'm going crazy, she thought as she stood up and walked upstairs, hearing something break when she was halfway up. She stayed upstairs until she was hungry, carefully going down for a sandwich, careful not to run into Chance. God, I lost him. I lost his love. I lost everything. I can't talk to him. I don't deserve it. She spent the rest of the day in her room, reproaching herself. She knew her husband was downstairs, but she just couldn't go to him. Why? She asked herself. Why can't I go down and talk to him? Maybe he will forgive me. But she never found the strength within herself, being a little afraid of him. Early the next morning, Happy New Year, damn it, she thought. She decided to just leave. It will be better this way. I'd rather leave on my own than have him kick me out. I know there will be a lot of bitterness between us, and I don't want to make things worse. I know he'll want to understand why, but I don't know why myself. She packed a small suitcase and began to walk down the stairs. She saw Chance on the court, his arms reaching out as if he wanted to hug her, and her heart broke. She couldn't turn to him. She completely forgot about David. As she left, she remembered that a college friend she had lived with in Tucson owned a small hotel in Sedona with her husband. Maybe she can shelter me for a few days, she thought. When she arrived at the hotel, her friend Candace rushed to hug her. They have always been best friends. Marie started crying and Candace took her hand and led her into the office. "What happened, Marie? You look so unhappy." "Oh, Candace, I ruined everything and lost Chance." Marie told Candace everything that happened. "Marie, you should call him. Talk to him. I know he loves you." "I can't," Marie sobbed. "I lost him." The next day, after New Year's, she called work and asked for a vacation. She also called her mother, explaining that she was having problems with Chance, but refused to go into detail. Her mother agreed to take the children from the other grandparents and look after them for a while. A few days later, Candace and her husband James offered Marie a small room in the back of the house with meals and a modest salary if she could work the front desk at night. There's really not a lot of work involved, but someone has to be there. If guests have problems at night or someone checks in late or calls to make a reservation, someone needs to be on site. We know it's not much, Marie, but it will give you time to think and decide what you want to do next. Marie liked it. At night, she read or thought about Chance. Sometimes she wrote him love letters, telling him how much she loved him and how bad she felt. These letters were never sent. During the day, she walked a lot, because the nature here was incredibly beautiful. In the evenings, some guests tried to flirt with her, but she just smiled and shook her head. She tried to call home several times, maybe 100 times, 200, she didn't count. The phone just rang. She began traveling to Sun City once a week to visit her children. The first time she arrived home, she saw that Chance's things were gone. She collapsed on the bed, sobbing, heartbroken, for several hours. Finally, after a month, she received a call from Phoenix. It was Chance's lawyer. Marie began to talk to him, but could not hold back her tears and burst into tears again. Finally, pulling herself together, she asked what he needed. "Marie, I don't have much news for you. Do you know how difficult it was to find you? We finally met a girl from your work who was in your fraternity at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and she told me about Candace, your best friend, and her hotel. I talked to your parents, but they refused to say where you are. Did they give you my message?" "No, they just said Chance's lawyer called. I thought it was about a divorce, so I didn't ask any additional questions. Basically, Chance gave me power of attorney and told me to take care of things. I talked to the bank, and they said you're up to date with the new bills, but what do you want to do with the house?" "Oh, how's Chance? Where is he? Was he asking about me? Has he started divorce proceedings? God, tell me about him." "Marie, I'm sorry, but all he told me was to take care of business. He didn't mention divorce, just said he'd be gone for a few months and would call me when he got back. That's all I can say." "Sorry, I'm just not thinking clearly. What did you want to discuss?" "Marie, we need to decide what to do with the house. He didn't say anything specifically, but I don't think he cares. My sister is looking for something in this school district, and if you want, we can do without a realtor and save you and Chance a lot of money." Marie suddenly realized that she and Chance would never live in this house again. I think, well, what do you think?" "I really don't think Chance cares. He left me a power of attorney. He is not here. What do you want? Does your sister really want him? Oh, okay, sell it. I don't know what's right. I don't know what Chance wants, except that it's definitely not me," she told herself. "Come on, sell it. Okay, give me the fax number where I can send the proposal as soon as it's ready. I have all the information on the accounts to credit the transaction amount, half to each account." All you have to do is sign the papers at closing. Donald, did Chance say anything about getting a divorce? No, Marie, he gave me power of attorney for all financial matters and divorce if you want it. Do you want to? Oh, Donald, God, no. Please let me know if you hear anything from him. Marie felt like a chapter in her life was closing, but she didn't know what else to do. Life went on, to Marie's surprise. Signs of spring appeared early in these high desert regions. She went skiing with Candace a couple of times, spending fun evenings at the hotel. Whenever someone tried to ask Candace out, Marie would say, "Poor girl, since her husband died, she doesn't want to date," or something similar. If someone tried to meet Marie at the bar, Candace would say, "Don't touch the poor girl. She's been depressed ever since her husband beat up that guy she was dancing with." They had fun making up stories like this and laughed more from it than from drinking as they watched the men run away. Candace knew this was good therapy for Marie and did her best to make her smile. Finally, the day arrived to travel to Phoenix to close the deal. Marie had mixed feelings. "I think it's good to finish this. I really need money. I have to move on." The closing took place at a mortgage broker in Scottsdale. I arrived early and looked around. There was a small restaurant nearby. I didn't have lunch, so I asked for a table by the window. My gaze fell directly on the parking lot in front of the office. Damn it, I thought. Should I go in there? About 5 minutes before the appointed time, I saw Marie drive up, get out of the car, and enter the office. She looked good. At exactly 3 o'clock, I saw Donald, along with his sister and her husband, whom I had met at the wedding of one of Donald's cousins several years ago, park their car and also go inside. I sat there, twirling my gin and tonic in my hands, then ordered another and sat there for about 30 minutes. Finally, I saw everyone come out. They stood for several minutes, shaking hands. Donald then left with his sister and her husband. Marie stood there for a moment, looking lost, and then headed to her car. She sat in the driver's seat. I watched her, waiting for her to leave. She started hitting the steering wheel so violently that I jumped up and was about to approach her. When I approached her car, she bowed her head in her hands and sobbed. I stood there for a minute, watching her with very mixed feelings. God, she was beautiful. Crap, she's David's girlfriend now. She raised her head, wiped away her tears, and, without looking, started the car. I was still silent, watching her. Her hair got longer, and damn, what is this, gray hair? I was fascinated. I didn't know what to say. She began to slowly back out, looked over her shoulder to see if there were any cars behind her, and then she turned her head to the left, and our eyes met. She froze for a second, looking straight at me, and whispered, "Chance." Bursting with a bright blush, she sharply turned the steering wheel and rushed away, almost hitting an old guy in a Cadillac on the turn, and disappeared before I could react. I looked down and saw a tire mark, inches from my foot. I drove to Phoenix and had lunch at a place Chance, and I used to go to before we got married. I think I felt alone. I picked around the food, had no appetite, and ended up going to Scottsdale to close the deal. I parked and went inside. I came first. The secretary invited me into the conference room, offering me water and coffee. I didn't want coffee, I was having trouble sleeping, so I opened a bottle of water. A few minutes later, the others entered. If you've ever been to the closing of a deal, you know how it goes. Sign it, sign it. Finally, it was finished, and Donald handed me a copy of the wiring. "You know Chance is back, right?" he asked. "No. Where is he? Is he okay? Where has he been all this time?" "Marie, calm down. I don't know where he is. He stopped by yesterday and said he was looking for a place to stay and that he would call me when he found one." "Will he come today?" "Easy, Marie. He didn't say anything. Of course, I told him about the closure, but he just said that he would call me." "Okay, sorry, Donald. It's just. Did he say anything about divorce?" "No, sorry, Marie. I really don't know anything." I sat for a minute thinking about it. Then she got up and went out to the car. Opening the door and sitting inside, I couldn't stand it. It turned out to be too hard for me. losing chance to some drunken lust. I started hitting the steering wheel. Feeling a sharp pain in my arm, I stopped and began to sob. It was hysterical. Pain in my arm, pain in my heart. I knew they were both broken. But the hand will heal. Having collected myself, I started the car and began to slowly back up. Looking to the right and then over my shoulder, I slowly continued to drive out. Instinctively turning my head to the left, I met Chance's gaze. We looked at each other for a second, and then I panicked. I turned the steering wheel sharply, almost hitting the old man in the huge Cadillac, and rushed away. Once on the highway, I quickly reached the I-17 interchange and turned north toward Sedona. About halfway, I had to pull off the road. My eyes were clouded from tears. I sat for a while, thinking about what was happening, then washed my face with bottled water. I returned to the hotel just at sunset on a warm, mild evening. Chance. I was stunned to see Marie and her behavior, her reaction to meeting me. I didn't know what to think. I returned to the restaurant and asked for another gin and tonic. Stroking the drops of condensation slowly flowing down the glass onto the table, I tried to figure out what was happening and what I was feeling. I thought about calling my brother, and remembered that I no longer have a brother. I thought about calling the hotel in Sedona, but didn't want to talk to Marie on the phone. I decided to go there and see her, but after a few cups of coffee. I didn't want to risk my life, but I didn't want to accidentally take someone else with me. I arrived in Sedona in complete darkness. As I drove into town from Cottonwood, one of the first buildings on the left was the hospital. I went there expecting to buy coffee and ask how to get to the hotel. As I got out of the car, I saw Marie walk out of the hospital doors with Candace, whom I had met several times. There was a cast on her arm. I decided to follow them to the hotel. I didn't want to talk to Marie in the hospital parking lot. The hotel was a few miles down a side road along a creek. They parked, and I waited a few minutes at the entrance to the parking lot. When they got inside, I pulled into the parking lot. I sat in the car for about 20 minutes, thinking about everything. I replayed all the events in my head. New Year's Eve, Marie and David, how Marie left for him the next day. My trip through Europe with this strange but pleasant episode with Mureen. I remembered Marie's reaction today. She didn't seem to be with David, so I didn't fully understand what was going on. Taking a deep breath, I got out of the car and headed towards the door through which they had entered. Walking inside, I saw Candace sitting by the fireplace talking with several guests. Seeing me, she jumped up. "Chance!" she exclaimed, running up to me and hugging me. She almost knocked me off my feet. "What does that mean? Why this reaction? I've only met her a couple of times. Thank God you came. I was so worried about Marie. When she came back from Phoenix, she was almost hysterical. I saw you leave the hospital. Is her arm broken?" "Yes," Candace continued. "She is in a lot of pain, but she has refused painkillers." "Chance," she continued, "Marie told me everything that happened. Since she has been here, she has not been able to find a place for herself. I think she's literally heartbroken. You know she loves you, right?" "Yes, I know," I answered sadly. "But she chose my brother. She left and went to him, damn it." "No, Chance, she never went there. She was so shocked by what she did and what she almost did that she just couldn't look you in the eye. She knew she lost you and she just ran away. She didn't know what to do, so she came here." But I thought, no, Chance, she never went there. She hasn't seen or spoken to David since that terrible night. She tried to heal her wounds here, but her heart is dying. The last few weeks she seems to be in apathy, self-absorbed. Talk to her, Chance. At least talk. You should at least give her this. She pointed down the hall, explaining how to find Marie's room. I walked down the corridor, turned the corner, and stood in front of her door. Through the door, I heard her quiet sobs. I was trying to understand what Candace told me that Marie didn't go to David. I hated both of them these 3 months for what they did to me. I drank myself into oblivion so many times, trying to suppress the insane jealousy I felt. All this turned out to be too difficult to understand. Finally, I knocked lightly on the door. A minute later, I knocked a little harder. I heard her crying subsided, almost stopped. Quiet. 1 minute. The door opened. Marie looked at me and whispered, "Chance," and fainted. Marie. I emerged from the deep fog, feeling my face become damp. Chance was sitting on the bed, wiping my face with a damp cloth. He looked at me with a concerned look. I tried to say something, but he put his finger on my lips and quietly said, "Quiet, not now." I lay there looking at him. With one hand, he stroked my hair, pushing it away from my forehead again and again, and with the other, he held my hand. He looked exhausted, tired. We lay there for a while, my body gradually relaxed, and my mind calmed down. Finally, I sat up, looked at Chance for a moment, and then looked away. "Chance, oh God, Chance, I'm so sorry, so fucking sorry." Tears flowed from my eyes again, and I could not continue. "How are the children? I miss them so much, especially my little girl." "Oh, Marie, the children are fine. I visit them at least once a week. The first time I came without you," Cassie cried. "I started telling her stories about you, all the funny childhood stories your mom told me. I know I should have brought them home to our house, or at least rented an apartment, but to be honest, I was in no position to make any decisions. I think I've gone a little crazy. Do you think we will succeed?" "Chance, we need to talk, but not now. I think we're both in shock right now. I'll ask Candace to find you a room so you can stay the night, and we'll talk in the morning, maybe go for a walk after breakfast." He ran his hand across my forehead, then wiped away the tears under my eyes with his thumb. Leaning over, he kissed my forehead and left the room. A few minutes later, Candace brought me a cup of tea and stayed with me until I fell asleep. The next morning, I was awakened by the bright sun and the sounds of birds arguing with squirrels. I got up and took a shower. I didn't know why, but I felt better. I didn't know what would happen next, but the feeling of heaviness on my shoulders disappeared. I could stand up straight again. I had no hope that Chance would be able to forgive me. I hadn't even forgiven myself yet. But at least we can discuss everything and move on. I hoped that I could at least keep him as a friend. I couldn't imagine that I would never see him again. Dressed in comfortable clothes for the walk, I headed to the breakfast buffet. Chance was sitting at the table with a cup of coffee. When he saw me, he stood up and pulled out a chair for me to sit down. We started talking, a little timidly at first, but then more and more animatedly. We, by tacit agreement, avoided serious topics. I talked about my stay at the hotel, about the beauty of the forests, about the almost tame animals. I blushed when I told him about how Candace and I would make up stories to keep men from hitting on me. He chuckled when he heard the stories and laughed out loud when he heard about how he allegedly beat up my boyfriend. I was so pleased to hear him laugh. I haven't heard him for a very long time. He talked a little about his trip, about the cruise, about what he saw, about the restaurants. His face darkened a little when he mentioned that he drank too much, but didn't say why. But I knew why, and looking down, I felt sad. After breakfast, he asked if I knew a good place to talk. I asked Candace to prepare us some takeout and a thermos of coffee. I went back to my room and changed into shorts, a sleeveless top, and sneakers. When I returned to the lobby, I saw Chance waiting for me with a backpack in which he had put food and coffee. His shoes were appropriate for the walk, and he borrowed shorts and a t-shirt from Candace's husband. We set off, not talking much at first, both clearly nervous, not knowing how this conversation might end. The path we followed led through a narrow valley along a babbling stream. The area was full of birds and squirrels, and once we even met a couple of fawns, which immediately disappeared into the bushes. The morning was warm, still cool in the shade, but the day promised to be hot. Everything was very quiet, only the sound of water and sounds of nature. A light breeze barely audibly rustled the leaves on the tops of oaks and rare pines. After about an hour, we stopped several times to admire the animals or watch the fish in the stream. The valley widened at the point where another stream flowed into our stream. There were large, flat rocks right in the middle of the stream. We carefully crossed the stream on a log that someone had placed there. We were laughing when the log started to slide, and we had to jump over the last couple of feet. Chance took a blanket out of his backpack, poured some coffee and, looking at me with a serious expression on his face, said, "Marie, now we need to talk." Chance. When you left, I thought you went to David. I was considering whether to follow you, maybe kill him. I was furious. The only thing that stopped me were the children. I couldn't stay and watch you sleep with David. No, let me finish. Now I know that you didn't go there, but I didn't know that then. Imagine how I felt. Marie, I have to tell you, there was a woman on the cruise. Chance, you don't have to say anything. It's all my fault. No, it was partly my fault too. Everything is out of control. I don't know what's next for us, but we need to start with honesty and establish the communication that we've been missing the last few years. Do you agree with this? Yes, sure, I will try too. On a cruise, I met a woman on the first night at dinner. I told her about Mureen. When I told her about that last night, about what Mureen said and how she left, Marie began to cry. I think she cried from sadness, but also from the realization of how close she was to losing me completely. I continued to talk about my trip, how lonely I was, how I drank a lot, and how it was the feeling of responsibility for the children that eventually brought me home. Quietly, almost in a whisper, Marie asked, "So it wasn't for me that you came back," and started crying again. "No, Marie, don't forget, I thought you were with David. Now I don't know what to think. I just don't want to run anymore. I want my family back if we have any chance of reconciliation." Marie. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. At first I didn't understand what happened. I hated myself for what I did, but I didn't understand why it happened. Last month I called my college psychology professor and asked to meet with her. I explained to her everything that happened, and she shared her opinion. She said she sees this a lot in college. Alcohol acts as a sedative for the central nervous system, primarily affecting behavior and emotions. The assessment of the situation disappears. She said that's why many drunk people think they can drive. Some people are much more susceptible to this than others, and I'd rather not drink more than one glass at all. I think I was already horny at that point. The alcohol made it worse, and God, Chance, I just lost control. I'm not making excuses. I know what I did was wrong. I'm not telling this so that you will forgive me. This is what helps me put myself back together. Since that night, I have never had more than one glass of wine and try to avoid situations that might seem ambiguous. Chance, I love you. Life was so dark without you. Staying here, walking in the forest, peace and beauty help me keep my sanity. Do you? Do you still love me, dear? Chance looked at me thoughtfully. He reached out and stroked my cheek. Leaning forward, he hugged me. I pulled away a little and then lay down on the blanket, pulling my husband. A pair of orioles chirped in a tree, watching the scene, and the squirrel froze, waiting. The water continued to murmur, breaking against the stones in the stream, and seethed further to the distant Great Sea. Life on this huge stage continued, not noticing the stupidity of two ordinary people. I was sitting in a hospital cafe, trying to swallow a half-heated cheeseburger. Marie was upstairs in the operating room undergoing emergency surgery. Having thrown the leftover food into the trash, I took a cup of more or less passable coffee and sat by the window, watching the rain flow down the glass, smearing the landscape outside into one continuous stain. Involuntarily, I began to remember the previous New Year's Eve, the pain, the heartbreak and misunderstanding, the long period of darkness. I refused to see or talk to David, and eventually my brother moved to Seattle. The children were fine. My little Cassie still had complete control over my heart. As for Marie, she's in surgery right now. Thinking about everything that could go wrong, I felt tears welling in my eyes and slowly rolling down my cheeks. Marie, Marie. Someone touched my shoulder. I looked up and saw a volunteer handing me a handkerchief. I took it and wiped my face, looking at her with gratitude. "Please come with me," she said quietly. "The nurse wants to see you." "Do you know anything? How is she?" "No, the nurse just asked me to find you and bring you upstairs." I followed her to the nurse's station. The nurse did not express any emotions. Her face was like that of a sphinx. "She's already back from surgery. You can see her." Looking at me, she seemed to assess my condition and added, "Perhaps this is not exactly what you expect to see." When I entered, the first thing I noticed was Marie's gaze, and there was a mysterious smile on her face, like the Mona Lisa. Before I had time to say anything, the nurse placed a small package in my left hand, from which a scream could be heard. Stunned, I looked down at the bundle and saw a wrinkled face, amazingly beautiful in its anger. When I looked up at Marie, the nurse placed another package in my other hand. This one was quiet, and the child, with narrowed eyes, looked a little arrogant as he looked at me. Looking up from two small miracles, I saw Marie laughing and crying, whispering, "I love you." Life was good. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.